Okay, I'm gonna do a quick little video on tuning. Um, there's lots of videos out there about tuning. Back in the day, the dinosaur days that I'm from in the 70s when I played, we didn't have all these fancy tuners and guitar apps and this that and I'm not knocking them. They're great. They're really great. What we had was a pitch pipe. Now I picked this one up off the net. It's a plastic one, but most of the ones we had that were in our guitar case was a metal pitch pipe. And basically it has the 6 strings on there. And for instance, here's the low E, the top 6 string. The metal one had a more resounding tone. So, we got to where we'd hold these suckers in our mouth by ourselves and then start hitting the 6th string. Or you'd have somebody else, if y'all were all tuning in a group, somebody would blow it and, and run out of breath while everybody else tuned. And then once you got the E string, normally the high E, then you would go through a series of tuning that you can find on the neck where, But anyway, okay, so let's talk about some tuning things that I see people do. The first thing that I always try to do with tuning, I've been playing for 52 years, and if you don't think you can grab the wrong key and start tuning, and you wind up and realize, oh, God, this is why if I'm going to the E, the floor, the high E, whatever, however you want to say it, the first thing I do before I ever pluck is I grab hold of the tuning key. Now, while we're at it, let me just show you something. This is a nylon Cordoba, and it's an electric nylon, and I love it. It's got a big wide nut, it's classical style. But we seem to get in this bias that if you ever see tuning keys that are open, they're cheap. Trust me, those are not cheap tuning keys. Let me just give you an example here. This is a Martin 0028. Those are not cheap tuning keys. But we're used to seeing closed tuning keys, and I'm not trying to start a closed versus open debate about tuning keys. There's all kind of tuning keys. They have ratios that talk about how many times the post turns. You have an 18-to-1, 6. So that's a whole nother thing in and of itself. Tuning keys, there's locking tuning keys. There's everything. What I'm trying to get you to understand is they're gears. Look at that. They're gears. And if you have a closed tuning keys, which most of them are, and that's a good thing. Again, I'm not going there. If you have closed, you might not appreciate that they're gears. Now, I was in Special Forces in the Air Force as a mechanic. And trust me, you don't get planes in the air without fooling with gears. And so the very first thing, when you here's one of the first things people tell you. They'll go, well, you need to tune up. You always need to tune up, not down. And I agree. But there's a reason. And the reason is they're gears. So when they're under tension, and when you're tuning up, you're tightening the string. So you're creating tension as it turns, which means it's going to stay in place better. If you just tune down, then now you've released the tension. And what will you get a lot of times? You'll get wobble in the tuning key. So here's what if my tuner tells me that I need to tune down, I usually tune way down, and then I come back up. And I very seldom make big turns with tuning unless I'm using some type of digital tuner. If I know this is an E string, and I do, it's the top string, and the digital tuner is showing me a D, well, I know that I'm way flat. I've got to get the digital tuner on around to an E. Now, that's one of the few times I'll make a big, but I usually tune and turn in very small increments. Now, I'm kind of, I may go overboard with tuning. It depends on what you're doing. If you're just in a hurry to tune and you're in the middle of a gig and you got to tune, well, tune the darn thing. I feel like tuning connects me to the guitar. That's why I don't ever hit a string without touching. When I go to the next string, I touch it before I ever pluck. Go to the next one, I move up, then I pluck. Lots of reasons. Number one, when I grab this, if it feels loose to start with, I know I got a problem. I know the tension has come off the gear. Remember, it's a gear. And gears, when you tighten, get tighter. You can exercise that with some old elementary school science tricks where they take a rubber band and turn it and show it getting tightened. So, that is something that I always try to touch. Now, the other thing before I start tuning is if it wobbles, if it feels loose, well, I want to check the screws. I want to make sure, well, wait a minute, is this tight? And then I may move to the screws, there. I mean, I do that before I ever even start tuning. Now, I don't go crazy. I treat it for the crafted instrument it is. But, tuning, those are just a few tips I've got. How you do it's up to you. I mean, that people can, it's one of the great debates about how to tune, but I feel like tuning is a very important part of the guitar, unless you're in a hurry for some valid reason, or you may not care. And of course, that's valid too. That's your preference. So anyway, just a few things about tuning. And, I really don't miss the old pitch pipe, but I got to tell you, it was a lot of fun to tune. I was in a folk group and we'd have as many as 8 guitars trying to tune all at once, and it was actually hilarious watching the person that got to blow while everybody else was trying to tune. So anyway, hey, happy picking, and I hope you have a great day.